Hello, this is Angela with Parker's Hausfrau. It's Friday. I upload a video every Friday on this channel, and this is not the video that I had planned on uploading because I was in the process of editing it and I had just a rip-roaring terrible migraine and did not get around to finishing it yesterday or overnight or this morning because I was just suffering. And then this afternoon I promised my kids we would go to the park, and so that video will be coming out next week. It's going to be good, so be sure and tune back in next Friday. But since we're here at Laurelhurst Park in Portland, I wanted to talk about something that came up in a Facebook group that I was in, a really good discussion, and I think it's worth discussing it more in depth here. So I'm in this Facebook group called Nerds for Skill Sharing and Self-Sufficiency, and I'll put the image of it right here in case you want to find it yourself. But it's a small group, it's really positive, it's really an encouraging space. I don't really remember how I found this group. I think that someone from another homesteading group mentioned it as like, this is a really safe and positive space. And it really is. Folks share their experiences, tips, strategies, memes. It's just really upbeat and not controversial, and I really like that about the space. So for me, hey George. So there was a conversation in this Facebook group, and the prompt went something like this: like, what is the most underappreciated skill that you have in your homesteading or attempt to live a self-sufficient and sustainable life? And hi Hal, hi B. Hi George. Okay, let me finish filming. You're delightful. So I thought that was such a great question, and I'll talk about my answer to that question in a minute. But obviously I think people are gonna lean into things like, oh, well, you know, auto mechanics or sewing or like some practical skill. And I'll talk about practical skills in a few minutes, but my response was, I think the most underappreciated and most utilized skill that I have as a homemaker is the skill of delayed gratification. And I think if you want to live a frugal and sustainable life, that's a really, really important skill to cultivate. So I thought we could talk about that for a few minutes. And, hi George, and in talking about that, we could address two other skills that I think are tied into that skill, that when you have all three of them together in a package deal, it really helps you become a more resilient and frugal and a successful homemaker. So when I say delayed gratification, what I mean is cultivating the skill of resisting the urge to give in to our consumerist culture. I don't buy things when they're not in my budget. I don't buy things on an impulse very often. I really try very hard to buy things when I need them, when they are at the right price, and when I can justify the expense, right? So our culture is a treat yourself kind of culture. Our consumerist culture is one that tries to bait us with advertisements and marketing that tell us that we have a right to spend money that may not be in our budget. We have a right to charge something on a credit card that we don't know if we can pay off at the end of the month because we're feeling blue, we're feeling stressed. We need retail therapy. And so we therefore have a right to treat ourselves because so many other things in our lives are untenable that the cure for that is to buy stuff. And obviously that's a giant lie, and it will just add more stress in the end as you accumulate things that you don't need and accumulate debt, which is difficult to pay off. So for me, having the skill of delayed gratification means that I have worked really hard to say, actually, no, I don't need that right now. Actually, that's not in my budget. Actually, that is something that is a temptation or a lure for me, and I don't have a need for it in my life right now. And even if I did have a need for it in my life, it's not in keeping with my budgetary plans or my planning for how I am running my life right now. And it just runs so contrary to how we're raised. It runs so contrary to what our culture teaches us all the time, throws in our face all the time. And that's why I think it's a really important skill, because it's a skill about resistance. It's a skill about building resilience by resisting the pressures of the savvy psychological tactics of marketing. And we are just immersed, we are drenched in, we are submersed in a culture that markets things to us that we don't need. So even if it's something that we think we may need, for me, delayed gratification helps me say, actually, I'm just gonna wait. This thing is really tempting to me, but I need to just step back and not make an impulse purchase or not make a purchase right there on the spot. If there's something I think I want, I usually tell myself, I'm going to put it in my shopping cart online, and then I'm going to think about it for 24 hours and decide if I really need to purchase it. Most of the time, I never buy it. Or I can say, I'm going to walk away and I'm going to keep in mind this item that I wanted to purchase. I'm going to think about it. And if I still want it in a month, then I'll go buy it. The other strategy that I have is I say, I am going to see if I can find this used on Craigslist or find it at the thrift store over the next month or 6 months. And if I'm not successful in that, I am going to wait until that item is on sale if I truly need it. So when you have delayed gratification, it allows you to live within your budget because you are willing to do without. You're willing to have the short-term deprivation usually in American culture, the short-term discomfort of not getting something you want when you want it. And in exchange, you're able to buy it when it's on sale, or you're able to take the time to source it used off of Craigslist or Marketplace or the thrift store, or you're able to just completely do without altogether. And in doing so, you are reducing the amount of consumerist crap that comes into your life, and you're living within your budget. So for me, that delayed gratification, that ability to build my distress tolerance, where I am able to tolerate having discomfort, where I'm able to tolerate being distressed because all of the psychological tactics telling me I need to buy this thing, it will help soothe my anxiety or my stress or my discomfort or my unhappiness with life. I'm able to go ahead and let myself feel that discomfort and put up with it in order to delay making that purchase. And that is something that doesn't come easy to most people in our culture, and it's something that didn't come easy to me, and it's definitely something I have to work on cultivating. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's okay to say, oh, I really wish I had bought that thing. It's okay to feel discomfort and to feel agitation when you don't buy something that you want. And it's okay to sit with those uncomfortable feelings. I think that that's something that American culture is really lacking. When we're able to say, this feels really uncomfortable, I want to buy that thing, and I don't like the feeling of not getting what I want when I want it, but I'm gonna go ahead and hold on and sit here in this uncomfortable place and feel that feeling. It becomes less distressing over time the more you practice that behavior, and over time it helps you save a lot of money. So let me talk about 2 practical skills that wrap into this concept of delayed gratification. For me, it is easier to say no to a purchase that's not in my budget, or that I don't really need in my life, or maybe it is something I need but it's not at a price point I can handle. It's easier to say no and deal with the interim period where I don't own that thing that I'm wanting to purchase, when I can use the skills of mend and make do and the skills of cook with what you have. So the concept of mend and make do has been really important to me, and that involves obviously cultivating basic sewing skills. They can be also really elaborate sewing skills. I'm a pretty competent sewer, but just starting out with the basics, and I try and teach my kids all the basic sewing skills as well. Because we live in a society of fast fashion, of constant style overturn, constant fashion turning over and telling us we need the latest trend. We also live in a society where clothes are not well tailored to us. So it's easier for me to say, I'm not going to purchase this new item of clothing. I'm actually just going to fix the one that I have that's broken, that's still perfectly serviceable, or I'm going to alter it in some way so that it fits me better and suits my needs better, so I don't have to go out and buy something new. An example is something I'm wearing right now, this vest here, which I've altered quite a bit so that it fits. Just basic folding and tacking down edges that used to pop up, like the collar used to sit up no matter how much I would iron this vest. I tailored the sides and the back. It's still a little bit gapey in the sides because I was a little bit different shape when I originally did the tailoring. But that's really important, taking garments that maybe are a little ill-fitting when we're walking around and something is like not fitting as nice or as flattering as it could. It's much more easy to be tempted into buying something new off the rack that we don't need, and it's probably made with exploited labor by young girls in another country. Having those skills of sewing on a button, tailoring a garment, doing little small alterations so that it fits, being able to mend a torn hem, patch a garment that has a tear in it, all of those things help us feel more confident and comfortable in the clothing that we wear, and that reduces our discomfort and it reduces our ability to be tempted into buying new clothing that we don't need. If we don't feel good and we don't feel comfortable in the clothing that we're wearing, it's much easier for us to be susceptible to marketing that tells us we need to buy new things when we don't actually need them. So the third skill that ties in with these other two is being able to cook with what you have. And I think this one is crucial for being able to delay gratification and not make impulse purchases at the grocery store or order impulse foods online or get takeout or things like that. It's really, really, really helped us live within our budget and live within our ethics and values about sourcing food. So obviously I have 4 kids, 3 of them are teenagers. My youngest is 10 and a half. They eat just a ton of food. And it's really critical for me to be able to keep my food budget very small. That helps us live within our means. But it means that I often have to make do when I'm cooking. I often have to cook with what I have on hand. I'm not gonna waste the gas running out to the grocery store. If I'm out of onions, I'll use a shallot, I'll use a leek. I will use nothing if I don't have an onion. Perhaps I will end up just using carrots and celery and parsley instead and just skip the onion altogether. Having that ability to understand the basics of food chemistry, the basics of culinary chemistry, and knowing also what ingredients you can swap in and out for each other is a great way to help save money in the kitchen, save on your family budget. And it also means that because I am using what I have on hand, I more efficiently use the food that I happen to have purchased. So if I did have an impulse purchase at one point in time and it's in the back of my cabinet, at some point I'm gonna have to use it up. And that way it's not a waste. In general, being able to cook with what you have reduces your food waste. It reduces your gasoline bill because you aren't making a one-off trip to the grocery store for 1 or 2 items. It also means that I'm in the grocery store less often, and I have talked about this on my other channel a little bit. The less often I'm in the grocery store, the less temptation I have, the less is marketed to me, the less likely I am to purchase something that I don't need, purchase a food item that I don't need or is not within my budget. So one element of delayed gratification is just removing the temptation in the first place so that there is no desire to purchase something that you need. You don't have to delay anything because there was no impulse to purchase in the first place because you were not exposing yourself to marketing. So I hope that was helpful for you all. For me, those 3 skills of cultivating delayed gratification, hi crows, cultivating mend and make do, and cultivating cooking with what I have, all support each other and work together as a cohesive unit of 3 tools in my toolbox that help me be a frugal and sustainable homemaker. So if you have thoughts about skills that you feel are underappreciated and undervalued for homemaking and homesteading, please drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear what's been really good for you. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out my Patreon down in the description. Please click subscribe and share this channel with your friends if you enjoyed it as well. I would love to see this channel get up above 1,000 subscribers this week. That would be excellent if that happened. I will be back next Friday, and hope you all stay well and enjoy your weekend. Thanks.